Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, on this, look at this. It's already the 18th, okay, of January 2021. We're all getting it done. All right, so there you go. All right, so I can't imagine. It's already the beginning of the third business week, also known as, if anybody goes to the gym, what's today? Come on, you people out there. What's
National
today?
Dropout Day.
The day everybody
Exactly. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that story again because it's kind of sad. But yes, it is. Thank you, Jamaal. It is National Dropout Day. Hi there. All right, hold on a second here. Sorry, folks, I got to do this wonderful thing. Okay, I have unfortunately muted you all. So, Mr. One Call to Jamaal, that's all. Could you please hit *6 on your phone, and then we'll be able to hear you.
Oh, there it is.
Here he is. All right, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, from the lovely St. Rose office, a little under the weather, but still kicking, we got Jamaal Ealey. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen. All right.
Hey, everybody.
All right, Jamaal, so tell them, we got people from California, Arizona, and Nevada on this call, and so some of the people don't know who you are unless they've been watching you guys. Now that we have that simulcasted, I'm going to say it like that because it sounds cooler.
Yeah,
the Success Center every morning. So tell them a little about yourself, how long you've been doing this, and all that stuff, please.
West Coast, best coast. First of all, California, Arizona, shout out. My name is Jamaal Ealey. This is my third year in real estate. Loving every day of it. Have a background in hospitality. It's where I did most of what I did prior. Did nightclubs, bartend, manage, pretty much everything you can do in the hospitality from top to bottom, from the Strip to the dirtiest dive bar in Vegas when I started. I am here. I'm excited, and real estate's been a great calling for me.
It has, hasn't it? Tell them a little about your production level as we, your start. You started out hot. And then, you've had a couple good years here. So tell them a little about that as well.
I've had a couple good years. And the thing that I look at is I never try to go back to – I always try to kind of build on it.
Yep.
I'm always hitting 20% year on end. Last year I did obviously was one of my best years. I hit a little bit under 20%, about 19. This year I'm going to try to hit for about 30. So it's about 32 deals this year. And just keep on grinding. My first 2 years were all skill-based training, so I just grinded, learned every single script I could, figure out a way to have confidence in my speech, and really just find ways to improve myself in my communication. My third year was all basically dedicated to customer service, where I just figured out better ways to manage people and help people and really make it really effortless to work with me. So this year is a pretty hefty goal. I'm going for 32. Already kind of obviously, with everything happening at the end of the year and the beginning of the year, it's been a challenge. But I've already put a couple in the escrow since obviously my sickness, and we keep on rocking and rolling. So I can't complain.
Yeah, not everybody knows that you're technically COVID positive right now, and he still did the call with me. So. Yeah, I know, so that's crazy. He's COVID positive.
But the crazy part is even with these 2 weeks, it's been such. Obviously not a good process, but it's really a good reflection process. Because you always have these different. I love we talk about Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, and it's always about the attitude and how you approach things. So with me being out, I really had to. You never really appreciate the people you work with, and I'm really thankful for Evelyn, Ray Langston, I'll give them shout outs, and a lot of people, Sherry Pan, who've been pretty wonderful in helping me out, delegating some showings for me, helping me when I wasn't able to be out there. So it's vitally important for who you work with to have that trust factor and that environment around of people you trust. So big shout out to them and everyone in the office who's been, fantastic and wishing me well and everything. So it's
yep.
That's one thing about real estate. You could really, it's not about the competition, it's about the cooperation that gives you the longevity.
I love it. Yeah, and everybody you just mentioned has been, I think I've done 2 classes now. I'll do another one today talking about scripting. You mentioned skills. And that's what I noticed about you right away, Jamaal. When you came on, you you got right into the skills right away. That's not common, just so you know, even though for you it was. And I think part of that is your training. Part of that is your personality way of being. And before we move on to that, I also want to mention that I agree with you. I've been here almost, 6.5, 7 years now. The number one thing I noticed when I came to this company was how cooperative and team the culture is. And, I totally agree with that. So awesome stuff. Now tell us a little about, because, going from, you did, what'd you say, 19 last year, and you're going to go to 30 this year. First off, tell them how you're going to do that.
Yeah. So basically, one of my big things is from my database. I do a lot. Obviously, database is my bread and butter, but this year it's really about sourcing your business. So I think that's the best way that I'm really focusing on this one is how I'm holding myself accountable. So from database, I'm going to do 12. I'm going to do 5 expired, 5 FSBOs, 7 just sold, basically from that script, and then 3 from outside referrals, which means that I know that I'm pretty much, I'm not just before I was really vague about it. Like, all right, I'm going to do this many transactions, or I'm going to really try to hit 14 doing this. Where this year I really want to focus on, okay, look, I know that I need to have 12 for my transactions because I have about 200 like really, really good people, A+ MVP people in my database. So I know I should be doing 20, but I said 12. So anything else, I want to hit really good strides. Now it's helped me focus where I know I have to get 5 from the expireds. I know I have to get 5 FSBOs because that's going to put me out of my comfort zone. So the more uncomfortable that I am, I know that's how faster I'll grow. So I'm basically just trying to find exponential and scalable growth now, and then improve it and those factors and see where, the numbers don't lie. So the more that I can see where I can make the improvements and really facilitate helping more people and really hammering down those different sources, I know that's going to further my business. And then 32 to 50, then 50 to 60, and then so on and so forth. But that's what I'm really looking for. I just look at how many families can I help and how am I really increasing my sphere of influence to people outside of what I'm usually comfortable with. So I feel like that's been really good on helping me focus and drive to what I need to. Because before it was me more saying, I don't have to really get to the FSBOs today because I made my calls in this one. Where now it's really finding better ways to scale up my prospecting, which has been helpful.
I love it. And that specificity you're talking about is so important. Like, a lot of agents I'll talk to, okay, so you sell 10 homes last year. What are you going to do next year? More. That's not an answer. Yeah. That's a cop-out. You've got to be extremely specific because, remember, we're setting our own mental GPS. That's kind of what you just explained going through that. I totally agree with that. Very important. I'm reading a book right now you'd love called Factfulness. I'm listening to it. Factfulness. It's about all numbers that would really – it's really an interesting book about the world. It's done by a guy out of I think he's out of Switzerland or Finland, something like that. He's a medical statistician type, and it's a pretty crazy some of the stats that he throws at you.
And that's what you got to look at. Like the only thing, because we always have figure out ways to lie to yourself, right?
Right.
And I always, it's like no matter what, because our egos are that of it, and obviously it's a continual process. But the only thing that the math is a universal language, right?
Right.
Like numbers never lie, but we always try to get, I want to get away from the evidence because with that it makes me feel uncomfortable. And I think in real estate the biggest thing that we're trying to do is create these reactions, right? And even if it's the what do you call it, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret, you have to figure out which one you're more willing to live with.
Yeah.
But I feel like when you go in and you actually look at the numbers and you some people stray away from that. We're real competitors, and the people who I've seen who are doing really good in the business, it basically those reactions of those gut punches help them move forward. And I think that's one of the biggest ones is you got to be willing to fail forward, and you got to be you got to be ready to have those disappointments and really habitualize that so you can move forward into it. Because at the end of the day, we're just building confidence in ourselves. So it's those little small pulls that we just need to make in the right direction and make those hard choices, even if it doesn't make us feel the best.
Right. Right. Like you'll appreciate this one. Like a big lie that's floating around the NFL right now, which is, of course, it's Tom Brady because Tom Brady's still in the playoffs and Bill Belichick is out. So Bill Belichick wouldn't be the same without Tom Brady.
I mean, what a champion.
I knew you'd like that one.
What a champion.
Jamal's a Patriots fan, in case you didn't know. So am I, obviously. Yeah, that cracked me up when I saw that. Even on some of the new, ESPN, and I'm like, you guys, are you really serious? Anyway, we'll see next year. But so the specificity, and I'm talking about like you just said. And let's just be honest. If you're going to lie to yourself, why not lie to yourself positively instead of negatively? Because we all skew the truth to ourselves. We can justify just about anything, which usually means that comes with excuses, or we can set the bar and get, if something is important enough to you, you will get it done. If something is not, you will come up with excuses why you cannot. Agreed?
Exactly. You can either make money or excuses. Which one do you need to be right about?
Yeah, which is so true. And this business, one of the great things about this business is that you're an independent contractor. And you mentioned the pain. I've been talking about that. I love that statement that you just made. The pain of regret or the pain of discipline. Here's what some people I think don't realize though. The pain of discipline is way less painful than the pain of regret. Yeah.
But,
all right. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and I think that's one of the hardest things that I had to overcome, especially being a new agent. There's a lot of, especially in that St. Rose office. I mean, there's a lot of heavy hitters and fantastic agents in there, and I think that's the one thing that it's really hard because it's the comparison, right? You know, me being even 3 years into it, and you got agents who are 20 years. It's hard because you're always going to kind of compare yourself towards a lot of standards and when they're, what they're doing and how I'm reflecting in it. And I feel like when you try to be competitive and you go out there prospecting, it's hard because, you're always trying to do better, but you see people around you doing better. And I think that's like one of the hardest things about real estate is you got to step back a moment and not focus on outside things. It's all internal. It's all just focused on what you can do, what's going to drive you, how did you walk out better person than you walked in. So I think that's vitally important for people just to realize that, I honestly, especially for my skill level is, I know I should be doing better, and I have to stop myself among other people to say, okay, wait a minute. I can't focus on the things that I'm not doing. I just have to focus on the things I can build to become. And everything else, I think that's what really helps with your emotional and just you keeping sane in this business. Yeah, no doubt about it. And you mentioned something earlier, like I'm listening to that book, Factfulness, and he talks about 50 years ago, the difference between today and 50 years ago is amazing, especially from a world poverty standpoint. Okay? Yeah. It's just amazing. Like, if you were living in a country where he puts them in tears, where you're a poverty, if your child came down with just about anything, okay, there's a 50%. 50 years ago, there was a 50% mortality rate of children in the lower, poverty brackets of the country. Today, it's down to like less than 20%. Think about that. You have to make a decision. Could you imagine that? And then when you mentioned Viktor Frankl, I remember the first time I read that book, and I still listen to it or read it now and then, where he said, I could tell you within days of somebody dying by the way they passed out their cigarettes. Oh. I mean, could you talk about watching that unfold? People are dying. And he said when people stopped saving them and started giving them away, you knew they were done. I'm like, oh. Well, and you know what? Could you imagine? I've been to Birkenau and I've been to Auschwitz. So you see these things. I mean, it's invaluable. I mean, I think that book really, everyone should, if they have to go into real estate, because it's the biggest thing about how you determine your attitude. And really what the three things you can't only control in your life are yourself, your relationships, and your environment. Like who you hold close to you, how you approach the day, and who you decide to have relationships with. So I think that's vitally important. So that book is fantastic. If no one's read it, I highly recommend it. It really makes you appreciate everything you have. I mean, I hope it does. But we're in a culture where some people have to be the victim. And, if you're looking for reasons why you're a victim, you'll find them.
And if you're looking for reasons why it's the most incredible time to ever, it's the most incredible time to ever see. I always walk right through this process when I try to still feel sorry for myself. I mean, it's the most incredible time to be a human in the history of mankind. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about it. 95% of the technology leaps have happened in the last 100 years, and most of them in the last 75. So it's incredible. Could you imagine even 10 years from now what it's going to be like as far as, if you want to, I listened to a book called The Future is Faster Than You Think. It really made me go, holy crap, what's possible is amazing, right?
I mean, and that's, so we're doing, I'm doing the new Darren Hardy, like his coach and everything
I love
right
that.
now. And, you know, he brought up a great point. You know, we're living from like the 2000s to now in the safest time in the entire world. Like in the safest time in the entire world, and not even just nationally, but globally. But if you watch, see, this is what's crazy, because they're trying to condition you with all these, I mean, especially with like the news and the media and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
They want to tell you all these terrible things that happen, but if you look at, you know, there hasn't been any wars in the past 20 years. There hasn't. I mean, obviously with advancements in modern medicine, we're figuring out ways to, you know, to at least curb and you know, help more people on a global scale. You can literally get capital digitally now with things like Kickstarter, GoFundMe, where, I mean, these are a lot of things, but if you only watch the news and only subscribe to like negative influences, you got to think that 87% of your thoughts are negative thoughts. So that means you only have 13% of positive thoughts, and it's really, you know, when we talk about that, which habit are you going to feed? You know, are you going to go in the negative direction because it's an easier process, or do you want to be, you know, always figuring out, how, you know, what's the silver lining, and not necessarily for the best positive, but hell, the best way to move forward and eat your cereal with a smile, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that, because this guy, Hans Rosling, he's from Sweden, actually. I looked that up while you were talking. In that book I'm listening to, Factfulness, they asked, I don't know, they randomly asked people in all countries, are things better now than they were 50 years ago? Or are they worse? Or are they the same? Now, I don't need to tell you, 70% of people said they're worse. Can you imagine than 50 years ago? And there's so many reasons why everything you just said, as far as violence, safety, poverty, it goes on and on and on. Now, of course, you can say global warming, you can say all kinds of stuff. But what he attributes, and I love this because I'm just so in tune with this, what he attributes the global, mostly negativity, and he's very politically correct. He said selective media reporting. Selective. In other words, they only take out what sensationalizes and makes things look worse than they actually are. Because if you do the numbers, like you just said, the numbers are the truth, baby. Mm-hmm. It's an incredibly better time than it was 50 years ago for so many reasons. So, you know, I guess you can, you know, it's one of those things. You can get what you're looking for. Exactly. So even if you go to the Bible has many different stories. You can justify different stories, different ways of being. Like you can go in there and say, look, it's easier for for a person to get to the eye of a needle, you know, a rich person, than it is to get to that's if you have a love of money, not just making money. It also says, you know, in the Old Testament, it also says that, you know, that story that's in there about you know, the master gave each of his servants X amount of money, and the one who did nothing with it was the one who was scorned. I mean, so you can look, saving money, being productive. It doesn't say in the Bible that that's bad, but people will say that it does. It does not. So, I mean, you can almost justify any story you want to based on data. So I always said to myself, then why would you ever want to justify everything sucks, it's terrible, and, you know, as opposed to to me, there's even more reasons. And it also takes less energy. And it's like you just said, the pain is less for the pain of discipline than it is the pain of regret.
Yeah, but I think that's what you have to. I mean, that's a part of the journey, right? Like, you don't want to make the million to make the million. You want to see what it took to make the million. Like, that's the craziest part, is that you got to enjoy the journey, and it's always the hardest is the first couple steps. And that's like the word that I got two words that I try to anchor with, right, every year. Mm-hmm. And this year's inertia. Like, inertia is really big. I just have to start it in that forward progress, 90-day cycle. And as long as you have that inertia going, you know, at the end of the day, you're the only. So, for people who don't know, I fought and I trained for a very long time, and that's what I loved about fighting. It's the only thing you can do in this world it's singular, and only you know when you can quit. So when somebody's hitting you, or you're on the ground, or even when you're doing jiu-jitsu, you are in charge of that, right? So there's a whole bunch of things going to it, and you have to. Most of these moves that you have to go into, you have to go into bad positions to take yourself out of it. So how are you willing to put yourself in a bad position with a client to get them the best possible outcome? How are you willing to put their interests first? I mean, that's what the best part about real estate is that once you really understand it, you don't control the market, and you certainly don't control the price, but you can control your reactions. You can control your emotions, and you can control basically the transaction. I think like that's what people get us for, and that's what being a good agent is the ability to, tell the truth, be honest, and still hold that integrity going forward no matter what the situation. And I feel like people resonate with that because even in the worst situations, if you're still there with them, I'm just dealing with a lawsuit, I'm dealing with this, this is the divorce, but you get it and you make it easy to work with you, and on top of that, you still get them what they're looking for. Oh, there's nothing better than that. And that's when that you really start to have that progress of the people who want to do business with you, the people who retain, and the people really start saying, no, he's good. And I think that's where you build most of your confidence from, is just being in there. And when everything else is negative, you tell them the truth, and you still keep a positive, and more importantly, you keep your emotions in between the lines. So it's great.
Absolutely. Well, which brings me to my favorite question, my man. You have so much to share. I want to hear this. Okay, so now knowing what you know now, by the way, before I ask you this question, you're at the cusp right now. Something you said earlier reminded me. You're at that cusp, 3 to 5, and with you, it's going to be more like 3. You're at that cusp where everything you do is going to multiply faster because you're going to get repeat and referral business because of the way you do your business. Usually I say 3 to 5, but someone who's been prospecting like you, it usually starts in the three-year range and you're probably already seeing it, repeat and referral business. So it's like you're not running on the hamster wheel as much anymore because you have traction. You have residual stuff coming to you because of your database, right? So congratulations. You're right at the beginning of that.
Yeah, that was my biggest. I mean, I got one of the things that I took from it, especially from hospitality, is no matter what you do, it's just like walking into a bar. And that's how I kind of had that relevance to real estate. Like anyone can drink anywhere, right? But they come to a bar for an experience. They come to see stuff. And at the end of the day, I think that's how we are as real estate agents. So it's the same hospitality that people are coming in for. So, yeah, it was, it's a complete moving process. So right out of the gate, I pretty much asked people, why would you choose me? And then they'll usually be honest with you. Well, you're doing this, or hey, look, you're not in the business that long, and I wasn't afraid to ask. Okay, fantastic. Well, I know you have an agent that you've been working with for a long time. Why'd you choose that agent? Or what are some of the things? What are 1 or 2 expectations that you have? So, a lot of people stray away from the people they know, love, and trust because that's a hard conversation, and they have a lot of, that vulnerability. Like, what if I messed up? What am I doing? Or they're too focused on that people. Where I just did ask a lot of questions and was like, hey, look, and it worked out well. My first listing, I was crazy, but I took a 7% listing on my first one because I was just told that was what you're supposed to do. So my first one went to 7, and then I didn't even know any better. And then once somebody told me, oh, well, you shouldn't be charging 7, you're not worth that. Another agent told me that, and it messed with me for like a year and a half. But then I was like, I don't know if I have I felt vulnerable. I felt insecure because wait a minute, am I actually worth this? Am I overcharging? Like, what value am I bringing? And I worked hard for those 7 for both of them, and I made it extremely easy for them. And I still doubted myself. And now it's in there, and now I have 7% listings, and I charge people, and now it's they believe in it more, and I believe in myself more. And that's one of the things is don't ever listen to what anyone says or just take it with a grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt and question everything anyone says, me included. That's what I try to. end all my success centers with is question, but figure out for yourself. And see, that's what's crazy. We go in, and for the people who take my success center, it's not about the hour. It's about the one or two questions or the one aha moment or one thing that you got from the week that you can implement in your business to be more successful. It's that conversation in passing. It's talking to you, Rick. It was talking to top producing agents. It's going out there and role-playing stuff that I'm not comfortable with and then getting on the phones and feeling that vulnerability for it. Because once you feel that vulnerability, you can at least build off it, right?
Yep.
Because you're like, I don't want to feel this way. Well, what do I do?
Yeah. No, I agree. You got to be careful who you bounce things off because it's like letting a little helium out of your balloon when someone tries to do that, especially early on. But I want to finish with this question today. So knowing what you know now, what are the 3 most important things you've learned that you would tell them to focus on, whether they're brand new or trying to go to the next level?
Always work twice as hard on yourself as you do your business. That's a Jim Rome. That's been the good thing. I mean, even if you're not getting where you're at prospecting-wise, always practice like a professional. So that'd be one. Fail forward, I think, is always a good one. In that, it just never stop moving. Always go to your goals. Always have like a schedule to fall back on, and you'll always be right on it. And then never lose your smile.
Let me tell you what I just heard there. Success is a verb. That sounds familiar to you from somewhere.
Go
ahead. Number 3.
But and then never lose your smile. I feel like that's when I just think you gotta not take yourself so serious. And I know that's hard for some. You know, if you're analytical or you're a driver or something in there, you're probably like but never take it too seriously where you're losing sleep over it. I think we all do that, and especially with 2020 and anybody who's had unfortunate events or coming around. Like at the end of the day, this is our career, but never let it affect the people around you. And I think too many people are business oriented and they forget about what makes them personally great. So if you can still hold on to that, I feel like that's most important. Always be true to yourself and never lose your smile. And it helps you get up every day and keep it rocking, baby.
Keep it rocking, baby. And I can't wait for you to come back and take the bull by the horns. I know that you're itching, but I know that you're keeping your business going, as you said earlier. Everything we go through makes us stronger, and I know you know that, especially from your past, fighting and so forth too. And that, think about that. That is a major discipline that I can see that you've. Think about this: major discipline, major customer service. Those are your backgrounds before you got into real estate, which has been tremendously helpful for you, and your ability to jump in and learn the skills necessary, is invigorating. So good job, my man.
Yeah, and I think it goes down to those 2 things that as real estate agents we should always have. Help as many people as we can, give the best customer service we can. I feel like if you just stay true to those 2 facts, you'll be good. Yep.
That's a Zig Ziglar. Almost Zig Ziglar says, if you help as many people get what they want, you will always get what you want.
Exactly.
All right, my man. Well, everybody. Hey, Jamaal, thank you very much, my man.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Shortly. You're the best. I really appreciate you taking your time out. Everybody else, we'll do this again in a week. I will be doing the Success Center class for Jamaal this morning at 9 o'clock. So it'll be on that link that the email was sent out over the weekend. If you can be on there, great. If not, well, whatever. If you're taking Success Series, you know how to do that. That's been going out. It starts this week. My first one this year, 1 o'clock today. Hopefully you can all be on there. You guys are the best. Thanks, Jamaal. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Happy helping everybody. Peace.
Thank you, buddy.